Hi everyone, it's Rita. I am a Clairaudient channel. I also access the Akashic Records. I'm trained to teach that work, and I do readings and stuff like that. And they're $300 an hour. I have a kind of limited time because I've been working on a film and a book, and now a whole website around the energy fields of you. So much more is coming. But I just wanted to talk to you about being a Clairaudient channel. What's it like to be a Clairaudient channel? This is a yellow sapphire. And it's part of my story to help you understand what it means and how to start trusting it. So, and I can tell you more about how all that began for me. But it's like I hear a conversation in my head. I feel somebody talking to me. And I'm not, in this lifetime, I'm not channeling through like Esther Hicks and Rebecca Dawson and these folks, but I started a film called Revelation of You, where we explore the energy field around the human with auric photos, before and after. It's amazing. I mean, you have guides, you have angels supporting you, you have past loved ones. I mean, you're mostly energy, and I know that'll come through in the filming. That I've got over 60 hours of film. So, and interviews with Dr. Bruce Lipton, like science. So it's bridging science and spirituality. It's not voodoo. Somebody says, this is voodoo. It's like, no, it's not voodoo. So there's a woman named Melody who's now passed, and she wrote a book called Love is in the Earth. And in that book, she talks about how the energy field of the human changed with these crystals, like this. And so at the time, there really wasn't much online about that. There's more now, and there'll be a lot more when you see this film. The film we're making. Anyway, I found out that there was a woman, so I was living in Sedona, Arizona. There was a woman that was in Sedona that was selling some of Melody's crystals. Melody was a nuclear scientist, brilliant woman. This Love is in the Earth book is very science-based. It has all the element properties of the crystals. It has a numerology properties, astrology properties, and then it has the metaphysical properties. The first book didn't have any pictures, which is why a lot of people like the pictures. She would eventually do a book that had pictures, which is, I think it's still available. It's big and heavy, but anyway, but the metaphysical properties, and it's beautifully written. There's like beautiful stories throughout it. She was like a hippie, like real cool hippie scientist. I mean, she's a nuclear scientist. And she would go to these shows and she would source gems. So this woman in Sedona, Arizona, named Deborah Burton, had some of her pieces put into pendants and things. And then she sold some loose that she had bought from Melody. Now, Melody is now deceased. And I heard a great story about her, which was on her business card, these women who own Muse, or something like that, went to see her, and she gave them, they were like, can we talk to you later or whatever, can we call you? And then and Melody was like, sure, and they're like, can you give us her business card? And so she gave them her business card, and they looked at it, and all it had on it was a dragon. Like, how cool is that, right? So anyway, I love it. So anyway, I'm driving out to see Deborah, and I'm in the car, and I hear in my head, this is the Clairaudient channel, I hear in my head, Melody. And I'd already felt like I'd connected with her, and she told me she was helping me with the project, and I said, can you help me with this project? No, it kind of started with you. And she was like, no, you got this, but you can call on me if you need anything. And so I was like, okay, So I'm driving out, and Melody pops in my head, and she's like, I want you to buy one of the pendants. Deborah had 3 or 4 or 8 or something for sale at the time. And she's like, I want you to pick it out, and I want you to put it on every day, and I want you to say to yourself, you have a beautiful love in your life. And I was like, that is so sweet, So I'm driving out, and then she said, and then I want you to tell Deborah that I'm giving her a big hug. And I was like, okay. So I'm talking to Deborah, and then I find out in talking to her that she knew Melody through a friend who was a really good friend of hers, but she didn't know Melody all that well. So I thought, I wonder if, why would she tell her to give her a big hug, right? So I was just like, so I didn't say anything about that. And I didn't say anything about the pendant, about what she had said about the pendant. So, but I bought this pendant, and then we're just talking, and I said, we started talking about COVID, and she said, what I really wish is that I could, because her health was not all that great, right? And so she's like, I really wish that I could walk down to the street. It wasn't very far, the main drag in Sedona. And she said, I wish I could give everyone that passes a big hug, because during COVID, we've been separated from each other. And it was like, oh, now I know what the message was from Melody. And I said, Deborah, Melody, I was talking to her on the way over here, and she told me to give you a big hug. And I wasn't quite sure if I had heard her right when I knew that you guys weren't like close friends, but now I understand, So I gave her a big hug from Melody. So that's sort of like what it's like to be a clairaudient channel. And so are you guys stepping into that space? These clear senses are like sense of knowing, about your environment, starting to trust that, hearing, seeing, and then a lot of people have a combination of all of them, and then there's usually one that's the strongest. And there's different ways to work with it so you can become stronger, but the best form is meditation. You don't need pills, you don't need drugs, you don't need to smoke anything. You just really need to be in a calm mind space where you're listening to something that you don't have any attachment to, or you could say, Sha-rem, 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 or just focus on your breath. Sha-rem, you would say it inside your head, like a little mantra, but that's a beautiful mantra to say, or breathe through your nose. You should breathe through your nose anyway. I'm reading more and more about that, and a friend of mine in Israel is a big breath work person, and she told me about this guy, this researcher person named with the last name of Nestor, and he wrote a book on the breathing. He wrote another book on those people that dive, that are divers, that breathe and go down and dive, which I'd like to read. Free dive with whales and stuff like that. How cool is that, right? But the idea is that we don't breathe enough through our nose, so most people, when they calm their mind, can do it just through their nose. And if I like to go into a space of great appreciation, because I'm very appreciative for my life. I'm appreciative for all the beautiful people in my life. I'm appreciative for all the beautiful experience. I'm appreciative for all the abundance that I see in my life and that's unseen in my life. Start talking to yourself. Your cells are listening, and be appreciative. And see how quickly you go into that space where you can't tell your nose from your toes. Much love to you all.